right, let's run the hurry up. Shefty through some of the big stories. A lot of them, as you mentioned at the top of the show, focusing on quarterbacks in the AFC North, beginning with Lamar.
Didn't practice yesterday, Greeny, an ankle injury. Last week he did not practice on Wednesday due to a knee injury. It turned out to be a situation where they were resting him, getting him ready for Sunday. This sounds like it's a similar situation where they're resting Lamar, keeping him off the ankle on Wednesday, and we think that he'll be back at practice today and certainly expect him to play on Sunday. As for Aaron Rodgers, a big test today. He plans to try to practice despite the fact that he's got a fracture in his left wrist. We'll see how that practice goes. Clearly didn't practice yesterday and wants to play on Sunday in Chicago. Has been pushing to play. If he can't go, Mason Rudolph would start in his place, but he will see how that wrist feels at practice today to get a better understanding of his availability. And the big story on Wednesday was the Bengals listing quarterback Joe Burrow as a full participant in practice. Not only was Burrow a full participant, but the man who has replaced him, Joe Flacco, was listed as a limited participant due to the fact that he's dealing with a sprained AC joint in his shoulder. So, if the starting quarterback named Joe Burrow is a full participant and the backup is a limited participant, that would lead you to believe that there's a chance on Sunday that Joe Burrow will be the full-time starter and Joe Flacco would be the backup. But I think there are some questions that they have to get through today and tomorrow to see whether or not that can happen and Burrow's healthy enough to start on
And
Sunday.
you were adamant at our meeting this morning that this is a very big deal. Why? Talk us through this, because I think there was a moment in time, I will admit, I thought there's no way Joe Burrow comes back this year. Team is terrible. Defense is terrible.
Right.
He's been injury prone.
Well, look,
Bengals,
even with Joe Flacco, this has been a top 5 offense.
Yes.
But it's been a horrendous defense. And I wonder if Burrow's return, whether it's this week or next week, and it certainly looks like this week is in play, would elevate the 32nd ranked defense. Now, our players can better answer whether the return of Burrow would provide some sort of spark to make the defense the 28th rated unit as opposed to 32nd.
Yeah.
But the offense is going to be great. And again, his return would impact the Bengals trying to stay alive. It would impact the Patriots on Sunday who are trying to stave off the Buffalo Bills. It could potentially impact the Buffalo Bills, who they play in 2 weeks as they try to catch the Patriots in the AFC East. So there are a couple of ramifications to Burrow potentially being back on Sunday.
Let's live in this full screen a second. I want you to see what these next 4 games are. So when I said Joe Burrow could shake up everything in the AFC, he could decide the AFC North and the AFC East in the next month if he plays these games, because he's got the Patriots and the Bills and he's got the Ravens twice. So he can play his way right back into it. What do you think of this, Hawk?
I think the chances are low. Those are 4 really hard games that you have to bank on getting the perfect version of all those teams in order to make that happen.
What does that mean?
He's not going to play defense. He's playing the Patriots, the Ravens twice, and the Bills. These are 3 of the best teams, like talent-wise and record-wise, in the NFL. And yeah, you might feel some kind of a lift and hope, and I think that's what they're looking to provide from Joe Burrow. But, you know, Will Compton at linebacker with no Joe Burrow, with Joe Burrow.
What am I running with Joe Burrow?
You're 4-4 now.
4-4.
Name is Jalen.
Backs out of the backfield.
He's manning up on the slot all of
I'm
a
not
sudden.
getting ran through by Darnell Washington. Maybe I'm throwing my body on the line a little
Let
bit.
me ask you an honest question to a defensive player, because Shefty kind of alluded to it. The full screen that we showed you, since Joe Flacco took over, their offense has been great. They're top 5
no
in
issues.
scoring.
Yeah.
They're top 5 in everything. If you were focused, and the defense has been the problem. Does Joe Burrow's return have any impact on that at all?
I mean, I guess if I'm sitting in the meeting room defensively, like you might be optimistic and hyped that Joey B's returning to full form, but it's not going to help you see pullers execute on defense. Right. I would like to believe in that little bit of hope and optimism we might have in the AFC North. Let's pretend the Bengals are going to win out. They beat the Ravens twice. Ravens beat the Steelers twice. We got a tie ball game here at the end of the season, fellas.
It's the worst defense in the NFL in the last 50 years.
They haven't played well enough to win out.
Listen, I'm trying to give some hope, Daniel.
That's not hyperbole. I mean,
Points
it's
per
literally
game.
that.
Points per game. It's the most points per game given up by a defense in the last 50 years. So, can Joe do it? I've seen him do it before. I've seen him drag this team into relevancy, into meaningful games, into mattering bad team before. If he does it, it will be by far his most impressive feat so far. If they win this weekend against New England, which I think is a long shot, it would be one of the bigger upsets of the season. It makes Thanksgiving Day cinema. because it would be a playoff game between Cincinnati and Baltimore.
The Bengals defense is no better than they were last year. In some ways, they might be worse.
No. It's not some ways.
Yeah, they're worse.
Always.
I don't know. I don't know if Joe Burrow can play any better than we saw him a year ago, and it didn't matter.
Didn't get them to the
That's my
playoffs.
point.
But I would say I'm agreeing with you. I'm agreeing with you, and there's a little bit of like hope here. But having your starting quarterback back, does that make one more drive 90 seconds longer or 2 minutes longer?
That's what I'm
meaning
saying.
one possession left for your defense on the field. Can you go and secure one final drive in the fourth quarter to seal a win rather than give the ball back to the opponent for a game-winning drive, like the Chicago game? So it's just I definitely think having that guy, it elevates everybody somewhat.
Doesn't someone should mention at some point that their next best player is suspended this week for a ridiculously stupid and disgusting reason?
Yeah.
I mean, Jamar Chase, the worst. I mean, literally, especially after it happened the first week of the season, for Jamar Chase to blatantly spit on another player and now not be playing in a game that, to your point, every game they play is a playoff game.
No doubt.
If the Bengals, if Burrow is really going to drag them back in, they're going to have to win out, and they're going to have to win this week without Jamar Chase.
Yeah, it's a tall task. It would be one of the bigger upsets of the season. I don't expect Cincinnati to win. But if there is a quarterback, there's probably 3 or 4 I think can. He's one of them.
Interesting story in so many different ways. Meanwhile, speaking of those
He had a great year, but this offense was exploding onto the scene. This year, you can talk about play calling. You can talk about Jalen Hurts' zone coverage, being in the pocket, not making throws on time, everything else. You can talk about the run game. But last year, they did have a run game. And this year, they lead the league in what, 3 and outs?
3 and outs.
They lead the league in 3 and outs. They might have one good drive a game to where they look like that team. But outside of that defense carrying them, they do not look very good on offense.
But here's my thing. This isn't anything new with the way the quarterback plays. Jalen's played like this for years.
Yeah.
That's the style of play that Jalen plays it. He's probably a little bit more risk averse. But when it comes to the offense, do I think this offense right now, the way it's playing, could win the Super Bowl? I do not. I've been adamant about that. But I also have watched this offense that struggled last year, hit its stride when the playoffs mattered. I also know this. You mean to tell me that one of the, let's call it the most accomplished and successful quarterbacks over the last 3 or 4 years, 2 of the highest paid receivers, 2 of the highest paid offensive tackles, the highest paid running back, they can't play anymore? Those guys can't play anymore? So it's not just those individual players forgot how to play football or have fallen off the planet and can't, and one of the highest paid tight ends. There is a reality where this scheme isn't necessarily highlighting all the strengths. They got to play better up front. But the way we talk about the quarterback is the way that we talk about guys who are bottom 5 at the position, and it's disingenuous and disrespectful.
I think the big thing is when you look at those statistics, because I think you're right. You're saying that this offense isn't good enough to win the Super Bowl. I agree, right, the way they've played. But when you look at this roster, both defensively and offensively, they should be good enough to win the Super Bowl.
Totally.
So that discrepancy, to your point, like we can point to whatever that is. And I'm not saying it's the quarterback. I'm saying it's this new offensive coordinator in the scheme. In 2023, they started the season 10-1, and they imploded. And then going into last year, it was Sirianni and Jalen Hurts have a terrible relationship. There was another explosive article about this organization. They also started 8-2, and they won the Super Bowl. So can they win it? Absolutely they can, because they have the horses in the stable.
Right.
But the
And not
reality
only
is
that,
that they have to get better.
someone needs to say out loud that this season, this team that can't win the Super Bowl has beaten the Rams, beaten the Chiefs, beaten the Lions, beaten the Packers.
Yeah, but this offense.
So they've beaten all of the teams that they would have to beat to do this again.
Yeah, but this offense is not good enough. Like, you're not going to beat in a playoff teams. You're not going to beat, or in a playoff game, you're not going to beat Seattle playing this way. You're not going to beat LA playing this way. You're just not.
And they beat the Rams on the 2 blocked field goals and all that craziness, and it was very early in the season. But to circle it all the way back, and we'll get more on the Cowboys later, you believe Dallas beats them this Sunday?
Yeah, I got Dallas. I think the defense is playing a lot better. You watched the game last week. There's a linebacker competition going on. Nobody's going to talk about a linebacker room and a competition going on in a linebacker room. But there is one happening.
Yeah. Right.
Guys are rotating every series. There's a lot of urgency and communication. You see it. They got Malik Hooker back. They got their other safety Wilson back. They're getting healthy. Overshown's back in the lineup. Kenny Clark and Quincy Williams being as disruptive as they are in the pocket, pressuring internally. This Dallas is playing with their hair on fire. Yes, it was the Raiders, but I got them beating the Eagles.
I hope you're listening, Stephen A. Smith. The Cowboys